Hey guys, welcome back to Recap King channel. Movie name: The Girl Next Door. Solex, with no child, he wonders if he has to tell his second wife about what had happened and says he doesn't think he has such responsibility. It happened in the 50s in the summer period. Ruth, Danny and Willie were just trying to create summer memories. In the summer of 1958 he and his friends had an encounter that he says causes him pain till today. As the summer starts, David goes to the river to catch crayfish. As he catches them, he sees a beautiful young girl who introduces herself to him as Meg Longan. Meg is amazed to see crayfish, as she says that where she came from there are only lobsters and not crayfish. At the point when David runs into tour after 3 days, she lets him know that nothing she truly disappears to satisfy Ruth. David finds a plan to make harmony between them. He recommends that Megan draw an image for Ruth. David for an opportunity to touch the one he has caught, and he allows her. She asks him if he is sure the creatures don't bite, and he replies that they do not. She touches it and she gets excited.
Over the course of the following couple of days, David attempts to help Megan out by slipping her a blade to cut her bonds and leaving the cellar entryway open so she can get away. She gets out, yet is captured when she attempts to slip Susan out of the house as well. To play a game in the woods, they tie one of their friend's eyes and make her fin them, after which they ask her questions and Ralphie brings out a reptile on her body. After the game, David goes towards the playground where he sees Meg. He sees Meg, looks at the swing and asks if she wants to play on it. She replies affirmatively, so they buy a ticket and join the fair. He asks if she wants a second ticket, but she tells him she has to get home. At home, her Aunt Ruth, who is a mower of 3 boys, Donnie, Willie and Rafa, sits with her kids and David and tells them she thinks they will need dancing girls at their summer party to make their party more interesting. She leaves the house with the boys, leaving Meg and her sister Susan alone. That night the boys play some truth and dare question where they ask if they have seen a naked lady. They all climb on a tree beside Meg's room's window to see her body, but she switches off the light and disturbs their views. Later, Ruth takes the boys and Meg towards a tree with worms and helps them out with sticks to destroy the worms. She teaches them how to get it done, and when Meg refuses to do it, she insults Meg and asks her to enter the house and help Susan with the laundry. The next day, Meg meets David at the cafe and begs David to buy her food. She tells David that SH hasn't eaten for days and is hungry. He asks her why. She says it's because Ruth thinks she is getting fat. He buys her some snacks, and as they eat, she tells him how wicked Ruth has been to her since the Ruth David knows isn't wicked. He assumes Ruth is only like that because she isn't used to living with girls, and asks Meg to make a water painting for Ruth to make her feel better. Meg refuses to do any such thing. She says she can already imagine the words Ruth will say to her if she gives her something like that, and she doesn't want to hear such words. Said David ask her to make the painting for them. The next day she delivers the painting to Ruth. Gets to know that day David leaves their house because he is uncomfortable. He asks his parents for an opportunity to sleep at the Chandler's house, and his father gives him permission. He goes there night and he sees Ruth and the boys trying Meg by the basement. The boys say they will do a confession night and they try to make her confess about the things she has done, but she insists she hasn't done anything that deserves confession. They gag her mouth and Ruth tells her she should think of 2 things. The first one is it could be Susan in her place, and the second is that Ruth is interested in her confessions too. Since then, under Ruth's supervision, the boys will bring boys from the neighborhood to hit Meg and use her as a punching bag. David feels pity for Meg, but he hasn't gotten any means of releasing her. He plans leave the city with her as he has some money. Officer Jenkins returns and David tells Ruth to leave the basement and attend to the officers. Ruth tells Jenkins that the girls are fine. Jenkins tells her one of the boys in the neighborhood reported to his mother that they are all using Meg as a punching bag, but Ruth and her sons deny the accusation. In the basement, David promises Meg that he has some money and he will help her out of the city. The boys return and he tells them that Meg has several injuries and they should help her clean up, but they refuse. He returns to Meg that night and offers to.
Today I'm going to recap a 2007 thriller. Begin coming out from work on his birthday. David receives a voicemail call from his friend Charlie, who wishes him a happy birthday and tells him he can get the ticket they have planned because of his brother-in-law, but he will make up another time for them. Then he apologizes to David. As David listens to this call, he also walks a man past beside him. A few seconds later he sees The man dead at the back of him. A car has hit the man and the car driver is running away. He drops his phone and goes to check up on the man. He sees him lying on the floor and attempts to give him first aid care before the ambulance arrives. He helps the man into the ambulance before he talks to himself about pain. He says his ex-wife thinks pain is what she had felt and always says if you didn't go through what she had gone through then you do not care. Pain. When she was 19 she got bit by some fighting cats and one of them came after her. It put gats over her body and thighs and she got several stitches for the injury and trauma that lasted for months. However, he says his opportunity to replace the man who had gotten into an accident right in front of him, he would have done it immediately, because taking his pain would reduce his pain for a moment and he will forget all his pains. David has been. He goes to Chandler's home that afternoon where he meets Don't playing with some red night walkers and a worm before Faye goes inside to ask his friend